If the residents if the residents of a courtyard and the residents of a gallery forgot to make an error, whatever is higher than 10 tefachim belong to the gallery, less than that to the courtyard. The embankment around the pit or a rock, which is 10 tefachim high, belongs to the gallery, less than that to the courtyard. To what do these words apply? To that which is near, but that which is at a distance, even if it is 10 tefachim high, belongs to the courtyard. And what is considered near, whatever is 4 tefachim away. If one places his Eruvin in a gatehouse, a colonnade, or a gallery, the Eruv is not valid, and one who lives there does not restrict it. In a silo, barn, woodshed, or storehouse, the Eruv is valid, and one who lives there restricts it. Yehuda says that the owner retains a holding there, he does not restrict him. One who left his house and went to spend the Shabbos in another town, whether a Gentile or Jew, restricts. These are the words of Rav Meir. Now, Yehuda says he does not restrict. Yossi says the Gentile restricts, the Jew does not restrict, for it is unusual for a Jew to return on Shabbos. Reb Shimon says even one who left his house and went to spend the Shabbos at his daughter's house in the same town does not restrict. He has already dismissed any thought of returning from his mind. Okay, good.
Okay. Okay, so today we're going to deal a lot with the situation of drawing water into your Rishus Hayachid. So our starting case is where we've got two adjoining courtyards, and there's a cistern that's in between the two. Okay.
Right.
Now, even though the two chatzeros have got a fence over them, the Tanakama comes and tells us that ein mamalin mimenu b'Shabbos. If you haven't, this is of course where the chatzeros have not made an erev chatzeros. Right. If they had make an erev, they don't have a question. But the problem is that they haven't, and now this water is split between the two. It's between the two, and you'd be taking from your neighbor's rishus into your rishus without without an erev. Okay, אין ממלין ממנו בשבס. אלא אם כן עשו לו מחיצה גבוה 10 טפחים. Rather, what you have to do if you want to be able to both be able to take water from this bore, is you have to make another mechitza that's at least 10 tefachim in height, that goes down into the cistern. Okay, bein milamala, bein milamata, and it doesn't matter whether milamala and milamata here are in terms of the water level. So is the majority of the fence above the water level or below the water level? That says the Tanakama is not so important, as long as you've got that visual distinction between whose half of the cistern is whose. Okay. Bein mitoch ogno, meaning mishva. And whether it's inside, like underneath the water level, or even if it doesn't reach the water level, it's also okay, says Tanakama. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer, Beis Shammai omrim milamata, Beis Hillel omrim milamala. So he says actually it's a matter of machlokes between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai say that it needs to be mostly submerged, so that it's actually dividing inside the water. And Beis Hillel say milamala, not that it has to be above, but even if it's above, it's fine. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda comes and says, I don't know what everyone is arguing about over here. Lo tehem mechitza gedola min hakosel shebeneihem. He says, if the fence is good enough to divide between the two courtyards, then it can also divide the cistern in half, and we'll just say that it has an imaginary line that drops down over the cistern, and you don't need to go further than the fence itself. So Rabbi Yehuda says the way it is fine. Okay. Zion continues another case of the split water. Amasamayim shehi overes b'chatzer. So now you have a stream that's going through the chatzer. Okay, and this is talking about where the where the stream is at least four amas wide and 10 tvachim deep. because that makes it into its own rishus.
Mm.
Okay. Amas hamayim shehi overis b'chater ein memalin himena b'Shabbos. You cannot now because it's own rishus. What does that make it? It makes it a carmelis. And you can't
Uh-huh.
turn Carmelis into Rosh Yachid or vice versa. Okay, it's a Durabanan, but it's still Aser. Okay, so what do you have to? So you cannot pull from it on Shabbos. Ela im kain asa la mechitza gavoa asra tvachim. So this is no longer talking about between the two neighbors. We're just saying it's just you've got a back garden and you've got the stream coming through your back garden, which is uh, which is itself a Carmelis because it's big enough. If it's smaller than that, then it becomes part of your Rosh Yachid. So then there's no issue.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, so what do you have to do if you've got this big stream coming through the back of your garden? Elim kain asula mechitza gavoa asra tvachim. You have to make a mechitza that is 10 tvachim beknisa ubetziasa. So where it comes into your garden and where it goes out, you have to make the same mechitza that goes down into the water and makes a clear separation between it and the outside world, so that it's also part of your rishus yachid. That says the Tanakama, who said the same thing in the previous Mishnah when you're trying to divide between the two owners of the boar. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Kosel she'al gaba tidon mishum mechitza. So once again, just like Rabbi Yehuda in the previous Mishnah said, the wall is enough of the fence between the two neighbors is good enough to divide for the boar. It's also good enough that there's a fence coming going around your whole property, and the stream is coming under the fence. That fence is good enough to separate. I don't see why you think this is a separate rishos now. So again, Rabbi Yehuda says no change necessary. You made a confused face there.
No, no, I'm fine. I'm
You,
fine.
you,
I'm
you're
fine.
fine. Okay. Okay. Kosas al gabatidon mishum mechitza. I'm a Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda comes and backs up his claim over here. He says, "Listen, I remember Master Shahaya. There was an Amma Shel Avel. There was a place in Avel called Avel, and there was a stream going through there. Shehayu mimalin mimena al pi zakanim b'Shabbos." And I remember that people used to fill up from the stream. It was going through a private property, and people would regularly fill up from it on Shabbos without making any special tikkun in the fence. And the normal fence was good enough. Amrulo, his colleagues said to him, "No, why could they do this? Mipnei shelo haya bakashir." Because it wasn't a Carmelis. It was a smaller stream than a Carmelis, and therefore it was absorbed into the Rishus Yachid. But in the case of the Rishus of a Carmelis, we still argue that you need to make a distinction in the fence.
Right. So here they would, because it wasn't a Carmelist, they don't have to make a distinction
Right.
for
So,
both
that,
sides.
so, so they agree. Yes, they don't. They're not arguing about the fact that he saw this maaser, but if they're saying, but you're missing a key fact that the stream that you're talking about wasn't big enough to make
Right.
that. Okay, okay. So you say we take that argument away, that proof of Master Shahaya away from Rabbi Yehuda.
Right.
Okay. Um, now, Mishnah Ches becomes a little more of a complicated case, and I don't know if they have a picture of it in your art scroll. I don't have a picture of it in Kahati.
Yeah, they have two pictures.
Right, it's okay. Just quickly show it to me. Let me see that I've got
Picture number one is
yeah,
this.
exactly. Okay, great.
Second picture is over here.
Okay. All right, that's a strange one side by side. Anyway, so Gazuztra. So you've got a situation which I can't imagine was terribly common in Israel, but let's say this might be something that would happen in Venezia or Holland or something, places where you've got lots of water and houses built right on the water. Okay, so here you've got a gazuztra. You've got a balcony, the shehila mala min hamayim. Okay, so the balcony is over the water. Now the water is clearly its own rishus. Okay, let's imagine we're in Venice.
Okay.
You've got a house with a balcony jutting out over the water, and let's say it's before modern times because you really don't want that water from Venice.
I know. I know.
I mean, aside from the fact that it's brackish, it's also heavily polluted.
I know.
But anyway, uh, so the balcony is over the water, and now you want to take water from this balcony. Ein malin hemena b'Shabbos. Okay, so you've got a hole in the middle of the balcony which allows you to drop down your bucket and pull it out. So you've got like an imaginary well over there. So you want to fill from it on Shabbos. Elem kein asula mechitza gavoa asrat tfachim. So what you can do is make a hole and make like a little mechitza around this hole that's 10 tvachim.
Right.
And what does that do? It creates an imaginary good asik, I think it's when it goes
Good
down, right? Where
good offset. Yeah.
is that what we said? Good asik? I get confused between good asik and good achis. Good
Yeah.
asik, yeah. It's a good asik, which makes an imaginary mechitza that goes all the way down to the water.
Mhm.
And now it's all part of your rishus, and you can stick your bucket down and pull the water out. And it doesn't matter if the walls are projecting up into your mepeset or if you've built it so that the walls go down in from the floor of your mepeset down below, so that you've got this wall that in the imaginary wall that goes down to cordon off the river below. Now you've got a situation where you have two balconies, one on top of the other, both with a hole going all the way down. Okay, where this gets complicated is because now, assuming that this is done with the consent of both neighbors, okay, it was constructed nicely with this hole that you can send the bucket down and pick it up. What this means is that the upper floor has got right of passage down through the lower floor, through the lower right of passage in order to stick his bucket through. Okay, so now you've got these two balconies, one above the other. Asu le'elyona velo asu le'tachtona. So if you made the fence for the upper floor, but the one on the lower floor didn't build this little wall. Um, ושתי נשואות עד שיערבו. He said that because you haven't wait, asu, let me just make sure that asu means that we're talking about the fence. Um, asu machitza, yeah. Right, so they made the fence for the upper one, but they didn't make one for the lower one. So now the lower one has got isn't he's not going to be allowed to fill up because he hasn't made this fence, and he'd be taking from the Carmelis into his Rosh Hashanah. So since he can't fill up, the one above him is trying to go through his property also can't fill up
Right.
because that restricts him. Um, and if the upper one has not Asula Eliona, and what's not stated explicitly in the Mishnah is that if the upper one didn't make and the bottom one did make, then still both of them are asur to fill up because the
Unless they
upper
make
one has
it.
got the right of passage. The upper one has got the right of passage to the lower one, and if they haven't made an Erev Chatzeros between them,
Okay.
then then even the lower one cannot fill up.
Okay, good. It
Okay.
says unless they make an error. Right. Okay. All right. Okay. Moving on to Vav
Gimel.
Gimel. The residents of a courtyard, one of whom forgot to participate in the error, his house is restricted with regard to carrying in and carrying out to him and to them, but theirs are permitted to him and to them. If they ceded their rights to him, he is permitted. But if they are restricted, if they were two, they restrict each other because an individual can cede rights and require rights. Two can cede rights but cannot acquire rights. When may rights be ceded? Beis Shammai says when it is yet day. Beis Hillel says when it is dark. One who ceded his rights and then carried out, whether unintentionally or deliberately, restricts. These are the words of Rav Meir. Rav Yehuda says deliberately he restricts and unintentionally he does not restrict. If a house owner was a partner with neighbors with this one in wine and that one in wine, they need not make an error. With this one in wine and with that one in oil, they must make an error. Reb Shimon says in either case, they need not make an error. Okay. Okay. That, that was it.
Yeah.
That's it. Right. Okay. All right. And we move on to Shabbos. Okay, test Vav Zion, test Zion, Zion. We may invert a bowl over a lamp in order that it not set fire to a beam, or over feces because of a child, or over a scorpion so that it does not sting. Rabbi Yehuda says an incident came before Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai and Aru, and he said, I fear for him that he is liable for a sin offering. If a Gentile lit the lamp, a Jew may use his lamp, but if he did so for a Jew, he may not use it. If a Gentile drew water to water his own animal, a Jew may water his animal after him. But if he did so for a Jew, he may not use it. If a Gentile made a gangway upon which to disembark, a Jew may disembark after him. But if he did so for a Jew, he may not use it. It once happened that Rabbi Gamliel and the elders were arriving on a ship, and a Gentile made a gangway by which to disembark, and Rabbi Gamliel and the elders disembarked by it. All utensils may be taken on Shabbos and their doors with them, even though they were detached on Shabbos, for they are not like house doors which are not prepared. That's it.
Okay, that's
Okay.
it. Yeah.
And we are on to Masters. Okay. Hey, Dalit. A person may not sell his straw, olive peat, or grape residue to someone who is not trustworthy in regard to Masters, for him to extract the juice from them. If he extracted them, he is liable to Maasros, but is exempt from Truma, because he who sets aside Truma has in mind the broken, the sides, and what is there inside the straw. If one buys a field of vegetables in Syria before the tithing season has arrived, he's liable. But if after the tithing season has arrived, he's exempt, and he may continue to gather in his usual manner. Rabbi Yehuda says he may even hire laborers to gather. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, when does this apply? If he bought the land, but if he did not buy the land, then if before the tithing season he is exempt, and Rebbe says also according to calculation. Here we go. If one made wine from grape residue and put it in a certain measure of water, and he found the same measure, he's exempt. Rabbi Yehuda declares him liable, and if he found more than the measure, he must separate for it from elsewhere in a proportion.
Yeah. We finish this tomorrow and start Masa Sheni.
Ma'aser Sheni, okay. Nida. Okay, base hay. The sages composed a metaphor regarding a woman, the room, the vestibule, and the attic. The blood of the room is tummy. If the blood was found in the vestibule, its doubt is tummy, since it is presumed to have come from the uterus. A woman has 5 tummy sides of shade of blood: red, black, a shade similar to the radiance of a crocus, a shade similar to earth waters, and a shade similar to diluted wine. Beis Shammai says also a shade similar to fenugreek waters and similar to the juices of roasted meat, while Beis Hillel declares these shades tahor. The color yellow, Akiva ben Menahel declares it tameh, while the sages declare it tahor. Rameya says even if the yellow blood does not convey tuma as a blood stain, it conveys tuma as a liquid. Yoshi says it conveys tuma neither in this manner or that manner. Which shade is red? Similar to the blood of a wound. Which shade is black? Similar to the keres. Deeper than this is tameh. Weaker than this is tahor. Which shade is like the radiance of a crocus? Similar to the most brilliant part of it. Which shade is like earth waters that produce when one takes soil from the valley of the base Karam and floats water upon it? Which shade is like diluted wine, 2 parts water and 1 part wine of Sharon wine?
Okay.
Okay. And Horos. Aleph Aleph. One who buys the fetus of a donkey belonging to a non-Jew or sells one to him, even though it is not permissible, or he enters into a partnership with him, or he receives a donkey from him to hold, or gives one to him to hold, is exempt from the Bechor laws, as it is stated in Israel, but not in others. The donkeys of Kohanim and Leviim are exempt because of a Kal V'Chomer. If they exempted the Israelim in the desert, it is only proper that they should exempt their own. If a cow bought something resembling a donkey, or if a donkey bought something resembling a horse, it's exempt from the Bechor laws, as it is stated, the firstborn of a donkey twice, until the bearer is a donkey and the offspring is a donkey. What is their status in regard to eating? If a kosher animal had bought something resembling an unkosher animal, it's permissible for eating. But if an unkosher animal bought something resembling a kosher animal, it's forbidden for eating. For whatever comes out of something unkosher is unkosher, whatever comes out of something kosher is kosher. If an unkosher fish swallowed a kosher fish, the kosher fish is permissible for eating. But if a kosher one swallowed the unkosher fish, it is prohibited for eating because this is not its growth. If a donkey which now had given birth bore two males, he must give one lamb to a Kohen. If he bore a male and a female, he must set aside one lamb for himself. If two donkeys which had not yet given birth bore two males, he must give two lambs to a Kohen. And if they bore a male and a female, or two males and a female, he must give one lamb to a Kohen. And if two females and a male, or two males and two females, there is nothing here for a Kohen.
Yeah.
And Sota. Okay, Aleph Gimel. There are ones who do not return, one who builds a gatehouse, colonnade, or gallery, and one who plants but four fruit trees or five trees that do not bear fruit. One who takes back his divorced life, a widow to a Kohen Gadol, a divorcee, a kaluta to an ordinary Kohen, a mamzeris or a Nisanite to an Israelite, a mamza or a Nisanite who marries the daughter of an Israelite. He did not return. Rabbi Yehuda says one who rebuilds his house as it was before also does not return. Eliezer says one who builds a house of bricks in the Sharon also does not return. And these are the ones who did not stir from their place. One who built a house and dedicated it, one who planted a vineyard and redeemed it, one who married his betrothed, or who has married his brother's widow, and Yubim, as it is said, he shall be free for his house 1 year. For his house refers to his house. He shall be, that is his vineyard, and he shall make happy his wife. This refers to his wife whom he has taken. This comes to include the brother's widow, but these do not provide water or food and do not repair the roads. And the officers shall continue to address the people, and they shall say, who is the man who is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return to his house. Rabbi Akiva says, fearful and faint-hearted is meant literally that he has not the courage to stand in the battle formations and face the drawn sword. Whereas Yossi Agili says, fearful and faint-hearted refers to the one who is afraid because of the transgressions he has committed. For this reason, the Torah excused him from all these, so that he may return because of them. Rabbi Yossi says a widow to a Kohen, or a divorced woman or kaluta to an ordinary Kohen, or mamzeris or a Nisanite to an Israelite, or the daughter of an Israelite to a mamza or Nisanite. Such a person is classified as one who's fearful and faint-hearted.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Okay.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.